born into a world that seemed determined to crush him before he could even dream. His mother, Eleanor, worked 3 jobs just to keep a leaking roof over their heads, and his father had abandoned them when Marcus was barely 2 years old. The tiny apartment they called home was cold, drafty, and filled with the constant sound of rats scurrying through the walls. But within that broken home lived a spirit that refused to be broken. Marcus grew up watching his mother return home at midnight, her hands cracked and bleeding from cleaning wealthy people's houses all day long. She would sit at the kitchen table, counting pennies and dimes, trying to figure out how to stretch $20 into a week's worth of meals. Young Marcus would pretend to be asleep, but through the crack of his bedroom door, he witnessed everything. He saw the tears his mother tried to hide. He heard her prayers whispered into the darkness, asking God for just one break, just one opportunity to give her son a better life. Those nights shaped Marcus in ways that would define his entire existence. At the age of 10, Marcus took his first job delivering newspapers before dawn. He would wake up at 4 in the morning, brave the freezing temperatures, and pedal his rusty bicycle through the dangerous neighborhoods just to earn $3 a day. Other children mocked him for his torn clothes and worn-out shoes, but Marcus never responded with anger. Instead, he used their laughter as fuel. Every insult became a promise to himself that one day, he would rise so high that no one would ever look down on him again. He saved every single penny he earned, hiding the money in an old coffee can beneath his mattress, dreaming of a future that seemed impossible. By the time Marcus turned 16, tragedy struck with a force that nearly destroyed him completely. His mother, Eleanor, collapsed while scrubbing the floors of a Manhattan mansion. The doctors diagnosed her with severe exhaustion and malnutrition. She had been giving all the food to Marcus, pretending she had already eaten when in reality, she was starving herself so her son could survive. Marcus sat beside her hospital bed, holding her frail hand, and made a vow that changed the course of his life forever. He promised her that he would become successful enough to ensure she never had to work another day in her life. He promised her mansions, luxury, and comfort beyond her wildest dreams. Marcus dropped out of high school, a decision that everyone around him criticized harshly. But he had a plan burning inside his chest, a vision that no one else could see. He took a job at a small electronics repair shop, earning minimum wage while teaching himself everything about circuits, wires, and machinery. The owner, an elderly man named Samuel Patterson, saw something special in the young man's eyes. He saw hunger, not for food, but for knowledge. Samuel began mentoring Marcus, teaching him not just about electronics but about business, about patience, and about the power of treating every person with respect regardless of their status. For 5 years, Marcus worked 18-hour days without complaint. He repaired televisions, radios, and every broken device that came through the door. He studied business books borrowed from the public library until the pages fell apart in his hands. He saved every dollar that didn't go toward his mother's medical bills, which continued to pile up like mountains threatening to bury him alive, but Marcus never wavered. He never lost sight of the promise he had made in that hospital room. His mother was his North Star, his reason for breathing, his motivation when the world tried to convince him to give up. In 1985, at the age of 23, Marcus Welford scraped together every cent he had saved over 13 years of relentless work. It amounted to exactly $12,000. With that money, he opened a tiny electronics store in a neglected corner of Brooklyn that no other businessman wanted to touch. Everyone told him he was insane. They said the neighborhood was too dangerous, the economy was too unstable, and his lack of formal education would be his downfall. But Marcus had something that no business school could ever teach. He had desperation transformed into determination, and he had the memory of his mother's bleeding hands driving him forward. The first 3 years were brutal. There were months when Marcus couldn't pay himself a salary. There were nights when he slept on the floor of his shop because he could unafford both rent and inventory. There were moments when he stared at the ceiling in complete darkness, wondering if the critics were right, wondering if he was destined to fail just like his absent father. But every time doubt crept into his mind, he would close his eyes and see his mother's face. He would remember her sacrifices, her unconditional love, and her unshakable belief in him. And he would rise again, ready to fight another day. The breakthrough came in 1989 when Marcus made a decision that seemed crazy at the time. While other electronics stores focused on selling products, Marcus decided to focus on relationships. He memorized the names of every customer who walked through his door. He remembered their birthdays, their children's names, and their personal struggles. When a single mother couldn't afford a television, Marcus gave it to her on credit without interest, trusting that she would pay when she could. When elderly customers were confused by new technology, Marcus spent hours teaching them with patience and kindness. Word spread throughout Brooklyn about the young man who treated his customers like family, and soon, his small shop became the most beloved business in the neighborhood. By 1995, Marcus had expanded to 5 stores across New York City. By 2000, he had created a chain of 100 stores spanning the entire East Coast. His company, Welford Electronics, became synonymous with quality, affordability, and exceptional customer service. The boy who once delivered newspapers in torn shoes was now being featured on the covers of Forbes and Business Weekly. The world wanted to know his secret, and Marcus always gave the same answer. He would say that success isn't about money, it's about people. It's about remembering where you came from and never losing your humanity in the pursuit of wealth. When Marcus's net worth crossed $1 billion in 2008, he did something that shocked the business world. He announced that he would donate half of his fortune to building schools, hospitals, and community centers in impoverished neighborhoods across America. Critics called it a publicity stunt. Skeptics said he was just trying to avoid taxes. But those who knew Marcus understood the truth. He was keeping a different kind of promise, a promise to the universe that had given him so much. He was ensuring that children growing up in circumstances like his would have opportunities that he never had. The greatest moment of Marcus's life came on a sunny afternoon in 2010. He drove his mother, now 80 years old, to a beautiful mansion overlooking the ocean in the Hamptons. He handed her the keys and watched as tears streamed down her wrinkled cheeks. For the first time in her entire life, Eleanor Welford had a home that was truly her own. A home filled with warmth, comfort, and more love than any mansion could contain. She looked at her son, the boy she had raised alone through impossible circumstances, and whispered that she was proud of him. In that moment, Marcus realized that all the billions in his bank account meant nothing compared to those 4 words from his mother. Marcus Welford passed away peacefully in 2023, surrounded by his children and grandchildren, having built a business empire worth over $15 billion. But his true legacy wasn't measured in money. It was measured in the thousands of students who graduated from Welford scholarship programs. It was measured in the communities transformed by his charitable foundations. It was measured in the countless entrepreneurs who cited him as their inspiration. There's a quiet realization that arrives when you've been living the same day on repeat. It doesn't announce itself loudly, recorded by his eldest. It doesn't demand attention. It simply sits there, waiting for you to notice it. A feeling that you are capable of more than what you are currently giving, that your life has more potential than what is being expressed. Many people feel it and quickly silence it. They tell themselves it's unrealistic, impractical, or selfish. But that feeling is not a problem. It's a signal. And what you choose to do with it determines everything that follows. At first, the signal feels inconvenient. It disrupts comfort. It challenges routine. It asks questions you don't yet have answers to. Questions like, what if I tried harder? What if I stopped settling? What if I actually committed? These questions are dangerous to the version of you that wants safety over growth. So the mind tries to protect itself by offering excuses. Not today, not yet, not now. But time does not wait for readiness. It moves forward, collecting days whether you grow or not. Most people underestimate how powerful small decisions are. They believe change requires a dramatic event, a major loss, or a sudden breakthrough. But transformation usually begins with something far less exciting. It begins with a choice to be consistent, to show up when it's uncomfortable, to do the work when no one is watching. Small actions repeated daily quietly reshape your identity. And identity is what ultimately drives behavior. There is a moment when you realize motivation is unreliable. Some days you wake up energized and inspired. Other days you feel heavy, distracted, or tired. If your progress depends on motivation, it will always be inconsistent. Discipline is what fills the gap. Discipline is not about being harsh with yourself. It's about respecting the future you are building. It's choosing what matters most over what feels easiest. Comfort has a subtle way of convincing you that you are doing fine, even when you are stagnating. It rewards avoidance with temporary relief. But over time, comfort turns into frustration. The frustration of unrealized potential. The frustration of knowing you could have done more. Growth demands effort, but it also brings clarity. When you commit to growth, Even imperfectly, you begin to feel aligned. And alignment creates peace that comfort never can. You will encounter resistance, especially at the beginning. Resistance shows up as procrastination, self-doubt, and overthinking. It tries to convince you that preparation is more important than action. But preparation without action is just another form of delay. Progress favors those who move before they feel ready. Action creates clarity. Waiting creates stagnation. There will be days when you question whether your effort is worth it. When results are slow and progress feels invisible. This is where belief is tested. Growth is not linear. There are periods where effort compounds beneath the surface before anything becomes visible. Quitting during these periods is common, but STEM teaches you something valuable if you are willing to learn. Failure only becomes permanent when you stop. Growth becomes more sustainable when it is internally driven. You stop performing and start building. You become focused on mastery instead of approval. That shift brings confidence that is grounded and lasting. Consistency changes how you see yourself. When you keep promises to yourself, even small ones, you build trust. That trust becomes confidence. Not the loud, performative kind, but the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself. This confidence changes how you approach challenges. You stop avoiding them and start engaging with them. You may notice that your priorities begin to shift. Distractions that once consumed your time lose their appeal. Not because you forced yourself to change, but because your goals became more important. Focus becomes easier when your actions are aligned with your values. This alignment creates momentum that carries you forward even on difficult days. Growth is rarely noticed by others at first. But that doesn't mean it isn't happening. Strength is built quietly. Habits are formed privately. Results appear later. Patience is required, not as passive waiting but as active persistence. Trusting the process does not mean doing nothing. It means continuing to act even when outcomes are uncertain. There will be moments when fear tries to stop you. Fear of failure. Fear of judgment. Fear of wasting time. But fear does not disappear when you wait. It fades when you move through it. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in the presence of fear. Each step you take weakens fear's control and strengthens your confidence. You don't need to transform your entire life at once. You need to commit to daily effort. Small, intentional actions create compound growth. Over time, these actions reshape your habits, your mindset, and your results. Progress that feels slow is still progress. And slow progress is infinitely better than no progress at all. There's a cost to giving up that many people don't consider until it is too late. That cost is regret. The quiet realization that you didn't give yourself a fair chance. Discipline may feel uncomfortable now, but regret lingers far longer. Choosing effort today is a way of protecting your future self. As you continue, you'll notice that challenges feel different. Not easier, but more manageable. You develop problem-solving skills, emotional control, and mental endurance. These qualities don't come from comfort. They are earned through effort. And once earned, there is a moment when you begin to sense that something inside you is asking for more. You are not broken. You are in the process of becoming. Not more approval. Growth takes time. Not more comfort and time, but more meaning. It often appears quietly, in the middle of an ordinary day, when nothing seems wrong on the surface yet something feels incomplete underneath. You continue doing what you've always done, but the satisfaction you once felt no longer lasts. That moment is not a crisis. It is awareness. And awareness is always the first step toward change. At first, you try to reason with yourself. You tell yourself that everyone feels this way sometimes, that you should be grateful for what you have, that wanting more is unnecessary. But the feeling doesn't leave. It grows stronger when you are alone, when distractions fade, when the noise quiets down. It shows up as a question you can't fully answer. Is this really all I am capable of? That question is powerful because it challenges the version of you that has grown comfortable. Comfort is subtle. It doesn't demand attention. It slowly shapes your routines, your habits, your expectations. It convinces you that consistency without growth is stability. But over time, comfort turns into stagnation. You may not notice it at first, but deep down, you feel it. The frustration of unrealized potential. The quiet disappointment of knowing you are capable of more effort than you are giving. Most people wait for motivation to save them. They believe that one day they'll wake up feeling inspired, confident, and ready to change everything. But motivation is unpredictable. It comes and goes, often without warning. If your progress depends on motivation, your growth will always be inconsistent. Discipline is what creates momentum when motivation disappears. Discipline is not about being harsh. It is about honoring the future you want to build. Change rarely begins with dramatic action. It starts with small decisions that feel almost insignificant. Choosing to show up when it would be easier to avoid. Choosing to continue when progress feels slow. Choosing effort over comfort for one more day. These decisions don't feel heroic in the moment, but they compound over time. And compound effort is one of the most powerful forces in personal growth. Your mind will resist change. Not because change is bad, but because the mind is designed to protect what is familiar. It will remind you of past failures, exaggerate potential risks, and question whether the effort is worth it. This internal resistance is normal. It does not mean you are incapable. It means you are stretching beyond what you've known. Growth always feels uncomfortable before it feels empowering. There will be days when you feel confident and focused. And there will be days when doubt feels louder than belief. Progress is not built on emotional consistency. It is built on behavioral consistency. Acting in alignment with your goals, even when your emotions fluctuate, is what builds strength. Over time, action reshapes emotion, not the other way around. One of the most important shifts you can make is learning to separate effort from immediate reward. We live in a world that rewards instant gratification, but meaningful growth does not work on that timeline. Results often lag behind effort. This delay causes many people to quit just before progress becomes visible. Those who succeed understand that patience is not passive waiting. It is active persistence. Failure is part of the process. Whether you acknowledge it or not, you will make mistakes. You will misjudge situations. You will sometimes take the wrong approach. Failure does not define you. Your response to failure does. Each setback contains information. Each obstacle teaches you something valuable if you are willing to learn instead of retreat. The way you speak to yourself during difficult moments matters more than you realize. Internal dialogue shapes resilience. If you constantly criticize yourself, you weaken your ability to recover. If you speak with honesty and encouragement, you strengthen it. Accountability does not require self-destruction. Growth thrives in environments of clarity and self-respect. There comes a point when you stop seeking validation from others. When you realize that approval does not build a meaningful life, alignment does. When your actions match your values, confidence grows naturally. You stop performing and start progressing. This shift makes discipline easier because your effort has purpose. Consistency begins to change how you see yourself. You stop identifying as someone who hopes for change and start identifying as someone who acts. Each promise you keep to yourself builds trust. That trust becomes confidence. Quiet confidence. The kind that doesn't need to be announced because it is proven through behavior. As you continue, your priorities shift. Distractions lose their power. Not because you force yourself to avoid them, but because your goals demand more focus. Focus becomes easier when your actions align with what truly matters to you. This alignment creates momentum, and momentum makes effort feel lighter over time. Growth is often invisible at first. Others may not notice the changes you are making. Some may even question them. This is part of the process. Transformation happens internally before it shows externally. Stay patient. Your progress does not need immediate recognition to be real. Fear will appear in many forms. Fear of failing, fear of judgment, fear of wasting time. Fear is not a sign to stop. It is a sign that what you are doing matters. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite it. Each time you act, fear loses influence. You do not need a perfect plan to move forward. Clarity is built through action. Each step reveals the next one. Waiting for certainty keeps you stuck. Progress favors those who are willing to move with imperfect information and learn as they go. There will be moments when discipline feels heavy, when effort feels unrewarded, when comfort seems tempting again. These moments define your character. Showing up when it's hard builds strength that easy days never could. Anyone can act when it feels good. Growth happens when action is chosen because it matters. Over time, effort compounds. Small actions repeated daily reshape habits. Habits reshape identity. Identity reshapes outcomes. This process is gradual, but it is powerful. You become someone who trusts consistency over excuses and progress over perfection. The cost of giving up is often delayed, but it is real. Regret appears quietly, when time has passed and opportunities have faded. Discipline may feel uncomfortable now, but regret weighs heavier later. Choosing effort today is an act of self-respect toward your future self. You are not behind, you are not broken. You are in the process of becoming. Growth does not follow a universal schedule. It follows commitment. Direction matters more than speed. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. There comes a point when you realize that waiting has become a habit. Start where you are. Not waiting for something specific, but waiting in general. Waiting to feel ready. Waiting for confidence. Waiting for the right time. You tell yourself that once conditions improve, once you feel more prepared, once things settle down, then you will take action. But days turn into months, months into years. And that future version of you remains just out of reach. This realization can be uncomfortable, but it is also powerful because it exposes a truth most people avoid. Change does not begin when conditions are perfect. It begins when you decide to move anyway. At first, the idea of taking responsibility feels overwhelming. It means admitting that your current situation did not just happen to you. It means acknowledging that your habits, your choices, and your reactions have shaped where you are now. That awareness can feel heavy, but it also carries freedom. Because if your choices helped create this version of your life, then new choices can create a different one. Responsibility is not a punishment. It is the doorway to control. Many people believe that confidence must come before action. They think they need to feel strong before they act strong, feel capable before they try, feel fearless before they move forward. But confidence is not the starting point. It is the result. Confidence is built through evidence, and evidence is created by action. Every small step you take becomes proof that you are capable of more than you once believed. In the beginning, effort feels clumsy. You are inconsistent. You second-guess yourself. You question whether what you are doing is enough. This stage is uncomfortable because you are no longer fully committed to comfort, but not yet rewarded by progress. This is the space where most people quit. Not because they are incapable, but because they misinterpret discomfort as failure. In reality, discomfort is often a sign that growth is happening. Your mind will resist change because familiarity feels safe. Even habits that limit you can feel comforting because they are predictable. The mind prefers what is known over what is uncertain. That is why it reminds you of past mistakes, exaggerates risks, and questions your ability. This resistance does not mean you are on the wrong path. It means you are leaving familiar ground. Motivation will not carry you through this phase. Motivation is emotional, and emotions fluctuate. Discipline is what carries you forward when emotions fade. Discipline is choosing to act based on commitment rather than feeling. It is not about perfection or intensity. It is about consistency. Small actions done regularly will outperform rare bursts of effort every time. Comfort will always present itself as a reasonable option. It will tell you that you deserve rest, that one day off won't matter, that tomorrow is a better time to start. Comfort does not announce itself as the enemy. It disguises itself as logic. But comfort, when chosen repeatedly, slowly erodes potential. Growth demands effort, but it also builds something comfort never can: self-respect. There will be periods when your effort feels invisible. When you show up, do the work, and see no immediate reward. This delay between effort and result tests patience. Many people quit during this stage because they assume nothing is happening. But progress often happens beneath the surface before it becomes visible. Just because you cannot see results yet does not mean your effort is wasted. Failure is inevitable when you push beyond your comfort zone. You will make mistakes. You will choose the wrong approach at times. Failure does not disqualify you. It educates you. Each mistake contains information that helps you improve. The only failure that truly matters is the one where you stop trying altogether. The way you speak to yourself during setbacks shapes your resilience. If your internal dialogue is harsh and unforgiving, recovery becomes harder. If it is honest but encouraging, you build strength. Accountability does not require self-criticism. Growth thrives in environments of clarity and self-respect. There is a shift that occurs when you stop seeking validation. When you stop needing others to understand your journey. When your motivation becomes internal rather than external. This shift brings peace. You are no longer performing for approval. You are building for alignment. And alignment creates sustainable progress. consistency changes identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who wants to change and start seeing yourself as someone who takes action. Each promise you keep to yourself builds trust. That trust becomes confidence. Quiet confidence. The kind that does not depend on praise or recognition because it is grounded in experience. As your discipline strengthens, distractions lose their appeal. Not because you force yourself to avoid them, but because your goals demand focus. Focus becomes easier when your actions align with your values. This alignment creates momentum, and momentum makes effort feel more natural over time. Growth is rarely obvious at first. Others may not notice the changes you are making. Some may question your decisions or doubt your direction. This is normal. Transformation often creates misunderstanding before it creates results. Stay patient. Your progress does not need immediate recognition to be meaningful. Fear will appear in many forms. Fear of failing. Fear of being judged. Fear of wasting time. Fear does not disappear when you avoid it. It grows. Courage is built by moving forward despite fear. Each action weakens fear's influence and strengthens your belief in yourself. You do not need a perfect plan. Clarity is built through action. Each step forward reveals new information. Waiting for certainty keeps you stuck. Progress belongs to those who move with imperfect understanding and learn along the way. There will be days when discipline feels heavy, when effort feels unrewarded, when comfort looks appealing again. These days shape your character. Showing up when it's hard builds strength that easy days never could. Anyone can act when it feels good. Growth happens when action is chosen because it matters. Over time, effort compounds. Small actions repeated daily reshape habits. Habits reshape identity. Identity reshapes outcomes. This process is gradual, but it is powerful. You become someone who trusts consistency over excuses and progress over perfection. The cost of quitting is often delayed, but it is real. Regret appears quietly when time has passed and opportunities have faded. Discipline may be uncomfortable now, but regret lasts far longer. Choosing effort today is an act of respect toward your future self. You are not behind, you are not broken. You are in the process of becoming. Growth does not follow a universal timeline. It follows commitment. Direction matters more than speed. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. It does not exist. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can today. Momentum is built through action, not intention. This moment is not ordinary, it is decisive. The choice to continue, to stay disciplined, to believe in long-term growth shapes your future. Quiet consistency builds extraordinary change. One day, you will look back and recognize this phase as the foundation. The time when you stopped waiting and started building. When you chose effort over comfort, when you chose growth over fear, keep going. Even when progress feels slow, even when effort feels heavy. Because the life you want is not created by waiting for motivation, but by becoming the person who shows up regardless.